Every single moment of your life, right now, you hold within yourself an extraordinary power, a force so profound that it can transform not just your day but your entire existence, and that power is the choice to remain calm. In a world spinning faster than ever before, where chaos screams from every corner and anxiety has become the background noise of modern existence, there stands one timeless truth that William George Jordan discovered over a century ago, a truth that remains as vital today as the air you breathe. And that truth is this: calmness is not weakness, it is the ultimate strength, the foundation upon which all greatness is built. And in the next few minutes, you're going to discover why the person who masters their inner peace masters their entire world. William George Jordan wrote The Majesty of Calmness in 1900, yet his words resonate with such clarity and power that they could have been written yesterday, for this very moment, for you. This isn't just a book, it's a manual for living, a guide to accessing the magnificent power that lies dormant within you, waiting to be awakened. Jordan understood something that most people spend their entire lives missing: that the quality of your external life is merely a reflection of your internal state. And when you master the art of inner calmness, you don't just change yourself, you change everything around you. Let's begin with the very foundation of Jordan's philosophy, the concept that calmness is majesty itself. Think about that word, majesty. When you picture majesty, you might envision a mountain standing unmoved by the storms that rage around it, or an ocean that, beneath its surface turbulence, maintains depths of perfect stillness. This is the majesty Jordan speaks of, not the false calm of someone who simply suppresses their emotions, but the genuine, powerful, magnetic calmness of a person who has learned to remain centered regardless of external circumstances. This kind of calmness isn't passive, it's the most active, dynamic force you can cultivate, because it allows you to respond to life from a place of wisdom rather than react from a place of fear. Jordan makes a crucial distinction that transforms how we understand personal power. He explains that most people live their lives in a constant state of reaction, bouncing from one emotional extreme to another like a leaf tossed about in the wind. Something good happens, they're elated. Something challenging occurs, they're devastated. Their entire emotional state is controlled by external events, which means they've surrendered their power to circumstances beyond their control. But the calm person, the person who has discovered their inner majesty, operates from an entirely different paradigm. They recognize that while they cannot control what happens to them, they possess absolute authority over how they respond. And in that response lies all the difference between a life of quiet desperation and a life of purposeful achievement. The book opens our eyes to a fundamental truth about human nature, that we are constantly broadcasting our inner state to the world around us. Calmness, Jordan explains, is magnetic. When you embody genuine calm, you become like a lighthouse in a storm. People are naturally drawn to your stability, your peace, your strength. Think about the people in your own life who possess this quality. You know them instantly. They're the ones who don't get rattled when plans fall apart, who speak with measured thoughtfulness rather than reactive emotion, who seem to possess an almost gravitational pull that makes others want to be in their presence. This isn't an accident, and it's not something they were simply born with. It's a cultivated skill, a deliberate choice, a daily practice. But here's where Jordan's wisdom becomes truly transformative. He doesn't just tell us that calmness is valuable. He shows us exactly why our lack of calmness is destroying the very things we claim to want most in life. When you operate from a place of anxiety, hurry, and emotional reactivity, you scatter your energy in 1,000 different directions. Your mind becomes fragmented, your decisions become impulsive, your relationships become strained, and your potential remains forever locked away, inaccessible. Imagine trying to see your reflection in water that's constantly being disturbed by waves and ripples. It's impossible. But when the water becomes still, the reflection appears with perfect clarity. Your mind works exactly the same way. Only in calmness can you see clearly, think deeply, and act wisely. Jordan dedicates profound attention to the concept of worry, which he identifies as one of humanity's greatest self-inflicted wounds. Worry, he explains, is not productive concern or intelligent planning. It's the useless expenditure of mental and emotional energy on possibilities that may never materialize. Think about your own life for a moment. How many hours, days, perhaps even years have you spent worrying about things that never actually happened? And even when difficulties did arise, did your worry prepare you for them? Or did it simply drain you of the energy and clarity you needed to handle them effectively? Jordan's answer is clear. Worry is a thief, stealing your present moment, robbing you of joy, and accomplishing absolutely nothing positive in return. But Jordan doesn't just diagnose the problem, he offers the remedy. He teaches that the antidote to worry is not blind optimism or naive denial of life's challenges, but rather a fundamental shift in how we relate to time itself. Most worry exists because we mentally project ourselves into an imagined future, usually a negative one, and then respond to that imaginary scenario as if it were happening right now. Your body, which cannot distinguish between imagined and real threats, floods itself with stress hormones, your mind becomes clouded with fear, and you experience all the suffering of the disaster without any of the disaster actually occurring. It's a form of self-torture, and Jordan argues passionately that we must stop inflicting it upon ourselves. The key, according to Jordan, lies in what he calls living in day-tight compartments. This concept is revolutionary in its simplicity and power. Imagine your life as a ship, and imagine that this ship has multiple compartments separated by watertight doors. If one compartment springs a leak, you close the doors on either side, containing the problem to that single space while the rest of the ship remains safe and functional. Jordan urges us to apply this same principle to our lives. Deal with today, today. Yesterday is gone, finished, and cannot be changed by any amount of regret or rumination. Tomorrow hasn't arrived yet and may unfold in completely different ways than you imagine. The only moment you actually possess, the only moment where you have any power at all, is this one, right now. This philosophy doesn't mean ignoring the future or failing to plan, quite the opposite. Jordan clarifies that intelligent preparation for tomorrow is done today, in the present moment, with full attention and calm focus. But once you've done what can reasonably be done today, you release your grip on tomorrow and trust that you'll meet whatever comes with the same calm capability you're cultivating right now. This practice, simple as it sounds, has the power to eliminate probably 90% of human anxiety, because most anxiety doesn't come from present moment problems but from mentally time traveling into past regrets or future fears. Jordan then guides us into understanding the relationship between calmness and personal power. So many people believe that intensity equals power, that the person who shouts loudest, moves fastest, and shows the most emotion is the one with the most influence. But Jordan demolishes this misconception with elegant clarity. True power, he explains, is like the power contained in stillness, in potential energy rather than scattered kinetic energy. Think of a drawn bow. All its power exists in the tension of stillness, ready to be directed with precision toward a specific target. The moment you release that tension randomly, flailing about without purpose, the power dissipates uselessly. The calm person possesses this kind of concentrated power. They don't waste energy on pointless emotional displays, on anxiety that changes nothing, on hurry that only creates mistakes. Instead, they gather their energy, focus their attention, and apply their efforts with deliberate precision. This is why, Jordan argues, the calm person inevitably achieves more than the anxious, hurried person, even when appearing to do less. Quality of action always surpasses quantity of motion. One of the most profound sections of Jordan's work addresses how calmness affects our relationships with others. He points out that we are constantly either adding to the happiness and peace of those around us or subtracting from it. There is no neutral ground. When you bring anxiety, irritation, and emotional volatility into your interactions, you drain energy from everyone you encounter. People leave your presence feeling tired, stressed, and diminished. But when you bring genuine calmness into your relationships, you become a source of restoration. People leave your presence feeling refreshed, encouraged, and uplifted. Over time, this creates an entirely different quality of life, different friendships, different opportunities, a different destiny. Jordan emphasizes that this is especially crucial in our closest relationships, with family, partners, and dear friends. These are the people who see us at our worst, who witness our unguarded moments, and who we sometimes wrongly assume will simply accept whatever treatment we give them. But Jordan argues passionately that these relationships deserve our very best, not our leftover scraps of patience and kindness. The person who is calm and gracious with strangers but irritable and reactive with their loved ones has the equation backwards. Our inner circle should receive the finest version of ourselves, the calm, present, loving person we're capable of being. This leads to another crucial insight, that calmness is not about suppressing genuine emotion but about channeling it appropriately. Jordan makes clear that he's not advocating for becoming an emotionless robot, unaffected by life's joys and sorrows. Rather, he's teaching us to experience our emotions fully while not being controlled by them. There's a profound difference between feeling anger and being angry, between experiencing sadness and becoming sadness. The calm person feels deeply but maintains a core of centered awareness that observes the emotion rather than being overwhelmed by it. Jordan illustrates this with the metaphor of being the sky rather than the weather. Storms pass through the sky, clouds form and dissipate, sunshine comes and goes, but the sky itself remains constant, vast, and fundamentally unchanged by these temporary conditions. When you identify yourself as the sky of your consciousness rather than the passing weather of your emotions, you discover an unshakable foundation. You can acknowledge, I'm experiencing anger right now, or I'm feeling sad at this moment, without losing yourself in those states. This awareness creates space, and in that space lies your freedom to choose how you'll respond. The book then explores the connection between calmness and health, a relationship that modern science has thoroughly validated but that Jordan understood intuitively over a century ago. He recognized that chronic anxiety and emotional agitation are not just psychological problems, they're physical ones, wearing down the body, disrupting sleep, impairing digestion, and weakening the immune system. The person in constant inner turmoil is literally making themselves sick, aging themselves prematurely, shortening their own life. Conversely, the person who cultivates inner peace is investing in their health as surely as if they were eating nutritious food or exercising regularly. Jordan points out that we can see this principle reflected in people's faces. The anxious person develops tension lines, a pinched expression, eyes that dart nervously rather than meeting others with steady confidence. The calm person, regardless of age, maintains a certain softness in their features, a light in their eyes, a quality of presence that others find both attractive and reassuring. Your inner state literally shapes your physical appearance over time, writing your habitual emotions into the very structure of your face and body. But perhaps the most practical and immediately applicable wisdom in the Majesty of Calmness concerns how we handle the small irritations of daily life. Jordan argues that it's not the major catastrophes that destroy most people's peace, it's the accumulation of minor annoyances, the slow drip of petty frustrations that we allow to disturb our equilibrium. Someone cuts you off in traffic, your coffee order is wrong, a colleague makes a thoughtless comment, technology doesn't work as expected. 100 tiny things that, individually, mean almost nothing but collectively drain away your peace and joy. Jordan's solution is radical in its simplicity. Stop caring about things that don't actually matter. This requires developing what he calls a sense of proportion, the ability to accurately assess the true significance of events. Will this matter in a year? In a month? In a week? Often, the honest answer is that it won't matter in an hour. Yet we allow these momentary disturbances to poison our mood, ruin our day, and damage our relationships. Jordan challenges us to become guardians of our own peace, to vigilantly protect our inner calm from these invaders, recognizing that each time we allow a trivial irritation to disturb us, we're choosing to surrender our power over something utterly meaningless. This doesn't mean becoming apathetic or uncaring about life, quite the opposite. When you stop wasting your emotional energy on trivialities, you have far more available for what truly matters. You can care deeply about your purpose, your relationships, your growth, and your contribution to the world precisely because you're not dissipating that care on whether someone used your parking spot or whether the weather matched your preferences. Jordan also addresses a misconception that troubles many people, the fear that becoming calm means becoming passive, accepting injustice, or failing to stand up for what's right. He dismantles this concern completely, explaining that calmness and action are not opposites but perfect partners. In fact, the calm person is far more effective at creating change than the agitated person because they can think clearly, communicate persuasively, and persist steadily. The anxious activist burns out quickly, alienates potential allies with extreme reactions, and often creates more problems than solutions. The calm advocate maintains their energy over the long haul, builds coalitions through their steady reliability, and achieves lasting change because they're playing the infinite game rather than seeking immediate emotional gratification. Throughout the book, Jordan returns repeatedly to the theme that calmness is not a gift you're born with but a skill you develop through conscious practice. This is perhaps the most encouraging message of all, because it means that your current level of calmness, whatever it might be, is not your destiny. You can change, you can grow, you can become the centered, peaceful, powerful person you admire in others. But like any skill, it requires practice, patience, and persistence. Jordan offers practical guidance for this development. He suggests beginning each day with a period of quiet reflection, not necessarily formal meditation, though that certainly helps, but simply taking time to consciously choose the state you'll bring to the day ahead. Before you check your phone, before you rush into activity, before you allow the world to make demands on your attention, you anchor yourself in calm. You remind yourself of who you choose to be, not who your reactive patterns have made you in the past. Throughout the day, Jordan recommends creating what he calls pause points, brief moments where you check in with yourself, notice your current state, and make any necessary adjustments. Are you breathing shallowly and tensely, or deeply and freely? Is your jaw clenched, or relaxed? Are you thinking clearly, or caught in a spiral of worry? These micro moments of awareness allow you to catch yourself before minor tension becomes major stress, before small irritation becomes explosive anger. Jordan also emphasizes the importance of evening reflection, taking time before sleep to review the day not with harsh self-judgment but with honest assessment. Where did you maintain your calm today? Acknowledge and appreciate those moments. Where did you lose it? What triggered the loss? And what might you do differently next time? This practice isn't about perfection, it's about progression, gradually expanding your capacity for calmness through awareness and intention. One of the most beautiful aspects of Jordan's teaching is his recognition that calmness serves something beyond mere personal comfort. It's actually a form of service to others. When you choose to remain calm in challenging situations, you're not just helping yourself, you're offering a gift to everyone around you. Your calmness becomes the steady point around which others can orient themselves, the assurance that chaos doesn't have to reign, That peace is possible even in difficulty. Think about a time when you were anxious or upset and encountered someone who remained perfectly calm. Remember how their energy affected you, how their steadiness helped settle your own turbulence. This is the ripple effect of calmness. One person's inner peace can quite literally change the atmosphere of an entire room, meeting, or family gathering. You have this power, and Jordan urges you to recognize the responsibility that comes with it. The book also explores how calmness relates to decision-making, an area where its value becomes immediately apparent. Jordan points out that anxiety clouds judgment, causing us to see dangers that don't exist, miss opportunities that are present, and make choices based on fear rather than wisdom. The worried mind catastrophizes, imagining worst-case scenarios and then treating them as inevitable. This leads to defensive, protective decisions that often create the very outcomes we were trying to avoid. The calm mind, by contrast, sees clearly. It can accurately assess both risks and opportunities, consider multiple perspectives, and choose actions based on genuine understanding rather than emotional reaction. This is why, Jordan argues, you should never make important decisions while in a state of agitation. If you're anxious, angry, or emotionally overwhelmed, postpone the decision if at all possible. First restore your calm, then decide. The choice you make from that centered place will almost certainly be wiser than any choice made in turbulence. Jordan extends this principle to goal setting and achievement, areas where calmness demonstrates its enormous practical value. He observes that most people approach their goals with a mixture of intense desire and underlying anxiety, wanting the outcome desperately while simultaneously doubting their ability to achieve it. This combination is toxic, creating a push-pull dynamic that exhausts energy while making little progress. They work frantically when motivated, collapse when discouraged, and cycle endlessly between effort and defeat. The calm person approaches goals entirely differently. They clarify what they want, identify the logical steps required, and then proceed with steady, consistent action, neither rushing ahead anxiously nor holding back fearfully. They understand that worthwhile achievements take time, and they are willing to invest that time without constant emotional drama. When obstacles arise, as obstacles always do, the calm person simply adjusts their approach and continues forward. They don't waste energy on frustration or self-pity, they invest it in solutions. This brings us to one of Jordan's most powerful points, that hurry is the enemy of achievement. We live in a culture that glorifies busyness, that equates constant motion with productivity, that treats rest as laziness. But Jordan saw through this illusion completely. Hurry, he explains, is almost always the enemy of quality. The person who rushes through tasks makes mistakes that require correction, overlooks important details, and creates more problems than they solve. The hurried person is constantly starting over, constantly backtracking, constantly cleaning up the messes created by their lack of careful attention. The calm person works at a sustainable pace, giving each task the attention it deserves, doing it correctly the first time, and thus actually accomplishing more with less apparent effort. There's an old saying that Jordan would certainly appreciate: slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. The person who moves through life with calm deliberation ultimately covers far more ground than the person who rushes about frantically because they're not constantly doubling back to fix their mistakes. Jordan also addresses the relationship between calmness and courage, showing how genuine bravery is impossible without inner peace. The anxious person might perform brave acts, but they do so despite their fear, fighting against their own terror with every step. This kind of courage is exhausting and unsustainable. The calm person, however, experiences courage as a natural extension of their centered state. They don't have to fight against themselves. They simply assess the situation clearly, determine what needs to be done, and do it, not because they lack fear but because they don't allow fear to control their choices. This distinction becomes crucial when facing life's inevitable difficulties. Challenges will come, losses will occur, pain will visit everyone eventually. The question is not whether you'll face hard times but how you'll face them. The anxious person meets difficulty with despair, feeling victimized, overwhelmed, convinced they cannot handle what's before them. The calm person meets the same difficulty with quiet strength, thinking, "This is hard, and I will deal with it." Not denial, not false positivity, but simple, powerful acceptance combined with determination. Jordan emphasizes that this calm courage doesn't develop overnight. It grows through practice, through choosing to remain centered in small challenges so that when larger ones arrive, your calm response has become habitual. Every time you maintain your peace in traffic, you're training yourself for maintaining peace in crisis. Every time you respond rather than react to minor irritation, you're building the capacity to respond wisely to major provocation. Life is constantly giving you opportunities to practice, and every moment you choose calmness, you're strengthening that capability. The book takes a fascinating turn when Jordan discusses the connection between calmness and authenticity. He points out that anxiety often causes us to perform, to pretend, to present a false version of ourselves that we hope will be more acceptable to others. This is exhausting, creating a constant tension between who we actually are and who we're pretending to be. The calm person, secure in themselves, has no need for these performances. They can simply be genuine, knowing that authentic connection is always more satisfying than performing for approval. This authenticity paradoxically makes the calm person more influential, not less. When people sense that you're real, that you're not performing or manipulating, they trust you. And trust is the foundation of all meaningful relationship and influence. The anxious person, constantly performing and adjusting themselves to please others, creates suspicion and distance. The calm person, comfortable in their own skin, creates connection and warmth. Jordan also explores how calmness affects our relationship with failure and success, those two imposters that Kipling wrote about. The anxious person is devastated by failure and intoxicated by success, riding an emotional roller coaster that exhausts them and distorts their judgment. The calm person treats both as information rather than identity, learning from failure without being crushed by it, appreciating success without being inflated by it. This equilibrium allows for steady progress because they're not constantly recovering from emotional extremes. When failure occurs, the calm person asks, "What can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time?" They metabolize the experience quickly and move forward. The anxious person asks, "Why does this always happen to me? What's wrong with me? Why can't I ever succeed?" They wallow in the failure, making it mean something terrible about their identity rather than simply seeing it as feedback about their approach. Similarly, when success arrives, the calm person acknowledges it with quiet satisfaction, expresses appropriate gratitude, and then turns their attention to the next challenge. The anxious person either dismisses their success as luck or becomes arrogant about it, neither response serving them well. The calm person maintains perspective, understanding that both failure and success are temporary states, not permanent destinations. Jordan dedicates significant attention to the practice of non-judgment, both of ourselves and others. He recognizes that judgment, the constant internal commentary evaluating and criticizing everything we encounter, is a major source of our lack of peace. The judgmental mind is never at rest, always finding fault, always comparing, always dissatisfied. This creates an internal environment of constant tension and negativity that poisons everything. The calm person practices acceptance, which doesn't mean approving of everything but simply acknowledging what is without adding layers of resistance and complaint. This person is what they are. This situation is what it is. This challenge is before me. Now what is the wise response? This acceptance doesn't preclude working to improve things, but it eliminates the enormous waste of energy that comes from constantly fighting against reality, wishing things were different than they are. Jordan makes a particularly important point about self-judgment, explaining that the harsh internal critic that lives in most people's minds is not a friend pushing them toward excellence but an enemy undermining their confidence and peace. The voice that constantly tells you you're not good enough, smart enough, talented enough, doing enough, that voice is not wisdom, it's anxiety masquerading as motivation. The calm person learns to quiet that voice, replacing it with a tone of friendly encouragement, treating themselves as they would treat a beloved friend who is struggling. This self-compassion, far from making you complacent, actually enables greater growth because you're not constantly recovering from your own internal attacks. You have more energy available for actual improvement when you're not using most of it to defend yourself from yourself. Jordan understood that sustainable growth comes from a foundation of self-acceptance, not from relentless self-criticism. The book also addresses the role of patience in cultivating calmness, recognizing that patience might be the most countercultural virtue in our instant gratification world. Jordan explains that impatience is simply anxiety about timing, the belief that things should happen faster than they're happening. This impatience creates suffering without speeding anything up, making you miserable during the very time that you're waiting anyway. The calm person understands that everything has its own timeline, that rushing rarely helps and often hurts, that growth and change unfold at their own pace regardless of our demands. They plant seeds and trust the process of growth rather than digging up the seeds every day to check if they're sprouting yet. This patience isn't passive. They're still tending the garden, still doing what needs to be done, but they're not torturing themselves with demands that nature hurry up for their convenience. Jordan shows how this patience applies to personal growth itself. People often want to transform overnight, to read one book or have one insight and suddenly become completely different. But lasting change is gradual, built through countless small choices and practices repeated over time. The person who approaches their own growth with calm patience, celebrating small wins and persisting through setbacks, ultimately transforms far more deeply than the person who cycles through extreme effort and disappointed abandonment. As the book progresses, Jordan weaves all these threads together into a comprehensive philosophy of living, showing how calmness touches absolutely every aspect of existence. Your work becomes more productive and satisfying when approached with calm focus. Your relationships deepen and strengthen when you bring peaceful presence rather than anxious demands. Your health improves when you stop flooding your system with stress hormones. Your decision-making becomes wiser when your mind is clear. Your goals become achievable when you pursue them with steady consistency. Your entire life transforms when you transform your inner state. But Jordan is also realistic about the challenges involved. He acknowledges that we live in a world designed to disrupt our peace, that we're constantly bombarded with stimulation, demands, and provocations. Modern life, even in his era and certainly in ours, seems engineered to prevent calmness. The news screams crisis at every moment. Advertising creates artificial urgency and manufactured desire. Social systems reward hurry and busyness while treating rest as suspect. Swimming against these currents requires real commitment and courage. Yet Jordan insists that this commitment is not only worthwhile but essential. You can either allow external circumstances to dictate your internal state, remaining forever at the mercy of a chaotic world, or you can claim sovereignty over your own consciousness, maintaining your center regardless of what swirls around you. This is perhaps the most fundamental choice any human being makes, whether to live reactively or consciously, whether to be a victim of circumstance or an author of experience. Jordan's vision extends beyond personal benefit to societal transformation. He imagines what the world would look like if more people cultivated genuine calmness, if families operated from peace rather than anxiety, if workplaces valued centered productivity over frantic busyness, if leaders made decisions from wisdom rather than fear, the ripple effects would be extraordinary, touching every aspect of human civilization. This isn't naive idealism. It's recognition that individual transformation is the only real path to collective change, and that change begins with each person choosing to become the calm center in their own sphere of influence. The final sections of the book bring Jordan's teaching to its culmination, showing that calmness is ultimately about aligning yourself with deeper truths about existence itself. When you're calm, you're operating in harmony with reality rather than fighting against it. You're accepting the fundamental nature of life, which includes both pleasure and pain, success and failure, gain and loss, recognizing that resistance to this duality creates suffering while acceptance creates peace. Jordan's spirituality is inclusive and universal, not tied to any particular religious tradition but drawing on the wisdom common to all spiritual paths, that beneath the surface turbulence of existence lies a profound stillness, and that connecting with that stillness is the key to living well. Whether you frame this in religious terms or purely psychological ones, the practice remains the same, turning your attention inward, cultivating awareness, choosing peace moment by moment. He acknowledges that this is a lifelong practice, not a destination you reach and then stop working toward. There will be days when you maintain your calm beautifully and days when you lose it completely. The practice is returning, again and again, to your center, not berating yourself for having lost it but simply, calmly, re-establishing your peace. Each time you return is a victory, strengthening your capacity for the next time. Jordan's final message is one of profound encouragement. He wants you to know that this majesty of calmness is available to you, regardless of your circumstances, your history, or your current state. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You don't need to wait until conditions are ideal. You can start right now, in this moment, by taking a conscious breath, by softening your shoulders, by choosing to meet this present moment with peace rather than resistance. The transformation you seek is not somewhere in the distant future. It's in the accumulation of these present moments, each one an opportunity to practice, to choose, to grow. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you respond to irritation with patience, every time you meet difficulty with calm courage, you're becoming the person you want to be. You're living the life you want to live. Not someday, not when everything is perfect, but right now, in the beautiful messiness of this actual moment. This is the profound gift that William George Jordan offers through the Majesty of Calmness, not a promise that life will become easy, but a practice that makes you equal to whatever life presents. Not a guarantee that you'll never face challenges, but a method for facing them with grace and strength. Not an escape from the world, but a way of being fully present to it without being overwhelmed by it. As you move forward from reading this summary, remember that knowledge alone changes nothing. It's the application of knowledge that transforms your life. Take one idea from Jordan's teaching, perhaps the concept of living in day-tight compartments, or the practice of pausing before reacting, or the commitment to protecting your peace from trivial irritations, and begin practicing it today. Not perfectly, not all at once, but consistently, patiently, calmly. Watch what happens as you do this. Notice how your relationships begin to shift when you bring more peace to them. Observe how your productivity increases when you stop rushing and start focusing. Feel how your body relaxes when you release chronic tension. Experience how your mind clears when you stop flooding it with worry about imaginary futures. This is not magical thinking, it's natural law. Inner states create outer results, and calmness is the inner state that produces the results you actually want. The majesty that Jordan speaks of is already within you, not something you need to acquire from outside but something you need to uncover, to remember, to reclaim. Beneath all your anxiety, your hurry, your reactivity, There exists a core of perfect stillness, a center that has never been disturbed, a place of absolute peace. Your practice is learning to access that place, to operate from it, to let it inform your thoughts, words, and actions. This journey requires patience with yourself, compassion for your failures, celebration of your progress, and above all, persistence. Some days will feel like great victories, others like complete defeats, but each day is simply another opportunity to practice, another chance to choose calmness, another step in your transformation. Trust the process, trust yourself, trust that the consistent application of these principles will gradually reshape your entire experience of being alive. And if you found value in this summary, if something resonated with your own yearning for greater peace and power in your life, then please consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from this wisdom. Like this content, subscribe to stay connected with more insights and teachings that can support your journey toward the life you want to create. Leave a comment sharing your own experiences with cultivating calmness, your challenges, your victories, your questions. Let's build a community of people committed to living with greater peace, purpose, and power. Remember that every person who discovers the majesty of calmness creates ripples that touch countless others. Your transformation is never just about you, it's about everyone whose life intersects with yours. As you become calmer, you give others permission to slow down. As you become more centered, you help others find their center. As you embody peace, you make peace more possible for everyone around you. This is your contribution, your gift, your legacy, not through grand gestures but through the quality of presence you bring to each ordinary moment. The world needs your calmness. Your family needs it. Your colleagues need it. Your community needs it. And most of all, you need it. Not as an escape from engagement but as the foundation for wise engagement. Not as withdrawal from life but as full presence to it. Not as weakness but as the deepest strength. This is the majesty that Jordan recognized, the majesty that awaits your discovery, the majesty that is your birthright as a conscious human being. So take a breath right now, a deep, slow, conscious breath. Feel yourself here, in this moment, in this body, in this life. Notice that right now, in this moment, regardless of everything else that's happening, you can choose peace. You can choose to be calm. You can choose to embody the majesty that is always available to you. And in that choice lies everything, your power, your freedom, your transformation. This is where it all begins, right here, right now, with you, choosing calmness. The majesty of calmness awaits. Will you claim it?